Hello and welcome to episode 245 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 4th of July 2018. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I'm joined by Alex Wiltshire.
Hello.
And Tom Francis.
Hello.
It's hot again.
It's hot again, but not as hot. And I was sort of thinking, do we need to make a thing about this? Because it's just, it's sort of normal. It's room temperature.
It's just what it is.
It is what it is.
We're still upset about it because we're British.
It's a little muggy. Basically, there is no news in the world of video games as far as I can tell.
There's Fortnite things going on.
Are there?
Oh yeah, that Fortnite murder story is fun. It's not news, but it's a thing. If you haven't heard about it, you should hear about it.
Tell me the Fortnite murder story.
Okay, so in Fortnite there was a meteor in the sky, like for everyone in all maps, I guess. And there was a big mystery about like where it would land. Maybe there's only one map in Fortnite Battle Royale. But when it finally was like breaking atmosphere, players in lots of games gathered to watch it. And, cause you can build things in Fortnite, they built like a big ramp to get up as high as possible to watch it. And then somebody, joined that server and destroyed the ramp and broke the all-time solo kills record by doing so. Cause something like 45 people were on it and they all died in the fall.
And they're recorded at the moment.
I haven't actually watched it, but it sparked a big debate about griefing. Like, is that, over the line? Cause it was clear that those people were not engaging with the, deathmatch side of things, but on the other hand, they were playing in solo mode where it's all for, what's the expression? Everyone for themselves? Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the funny thing is this guy's not very good. The guy who did it. It's like a really bad kill to death ratio. What he did.
Yeah. He just wiped out 45 games worth of,
Yeah, and the game has like a rankings board for like most kills in a single game and he's at the top of it now.
I think it's a good one. But, obviously it doesn't feel like it's very fair to have him on the top, but like, what a move.
At the same time, I mean,
what a move.
I feel like this is really interesting because suddenly like, I mean, obviously having like, so I'm interested in like ARG style storytelling in multiplayer games, who knew? But like having, that in the game by itself is like, okay, well, ultimately the meteors and the rocket ships and the things will probably add up to a teaser for the next round of cosmetics or something, right? Like TF2 used to do. It'll be this is happening now update where everyone can be a robot or something. I don't know. Ultimately, it will be to a sort of marketing end telling the story, right? Is what I'm saying.
But they've made high stakes because of the sheer kind of apparent enormity of the events. I think today, objects have started going missing. There are little kind of, portal or kind of rifts kind of appearing all over the map and things are going missing. It's probably something to do with some new map or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think of this in the same way as like the Mount Chiliad UFO stuff in GTA Online, right? Like, it's fun. This is a fun form of storytelling. I think most of the time it sort of turns towards, it just keeps people's interest in the game and that's fine. But I really like this accidental interaction with the fundamental purpose of Fortnite Battle Royale, which is for people to go into a map and kill each other. And the fact that that person is not at fault for engaging with the systems of the game in that way. Like, the game is not Fortnite appreciate like an eclipse or, stargazing simulator, right? Like, it is about the thing that he did, not the thing everybody else did in that moment.
And that event will have been designed with the tension of being able to watch this event happening and knowing that you could get shot at any time
exactly.
and miss it in mind.
Yeah, that is fun.
Presumably they could all watch in spectator mode, right?
Presumably, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess maybe they wanted to be the first to rush to the scene or something. I mean, that's the thing, right? I bet you if those 45 people, I don't know if that was when the meteor actually crashed or whatever. I haven't been paying attention, but like, you can guarantee those people would have then immediately murdered each other in pursuit of whatever it was to be the first to do whatever.
Or all throwing themselves off the ramp in a suicide pact. Well, we've seen the one thing that's going to happen tonight. Time to end our lives.
Driven mad by its seeing, throwing themselves off.
I'm just trying to get closer to it like a moth. Or perhaps hit by it.
Driven mad by content.
What better way to be
just the promise of content, like a moth to content. It's basically, so other than that, as far as I can tell by browsing the internet's video game websites, nothing else has really happened. So we should talk about what we've been up to instead.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do on the podcast. And we have all been playing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. In different ways, probably.
Probably. And that thing is Prey Mooncrash, which is a really, really good name, I think. I like that name a lot.
I keep forgetting it, though.
Really?
Moonland, Moon Strike.
Moon Comfortable Landing.
Moon arrive on schedule.
You don't crash into the moon in it.
No. You're trying to get off the moon, but you haven't crash landed there, have you? Most of you work there.
I assume that, my assumption was that there's a sort of virtual reality, snow crashy kind of,
that's what I was
cyberpunk
thinking.
thing, and you can put crash after anything and it sounds cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Right? Wine crash.
It sounds like more of an economic thing.
Yeah. But that's shit. That's really undermined that theory. But nonetheless, right? But it's about the moon. That's what I'm saying they've done there.
You're on the moon. Yeah, so Prey Mooncrash is DLC for Prey. And it's really good. It's huge. It's really big. It's a full brand new environment on the moon. You haven't been here before in the main game. And it is a complete sort of twisting around of all of the objects and things to do that you do in Prey. Abilities, kind of characters.
Like the structure is the really big new thing.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who loves, structure and systems and finding out how things work. And I listened very carefully and I paid a lot of attention and I read some articles about it and I still really did not know how it worked until I played it for
same.
Not even for an hour, but for 4 hours.
Yeah,
I'm just now starting to see, this is the game. And actually the most, eye-opening thing, I not read, but watched was, a YouTuber who, just absolutely loves it and just raving about it. But, he's obviously played it for many, many hours and the complexity it gets into when you go really deep in it, it sounds absolutely nuts. So it's kind of roguelike, and that's obviously got me very interested because it's roguelike plus immersive sims, my two favorite things. And so it always takes place in the same location, but it's permadeath. If you die, that character is dead. You start with only one character and there are 5 to unlock.
Yeah.
So at the start, if you die, you're dead and the whole thing resets and you go back to the start, but certain things are randomized, like locations can be closed off or opened up. Different hazards can be at different places. But as you unlock characters, those are not just other class choices. When you die, if any other characters who are unlocked have not yet died on this run, you could play as them now and the world stays mostly the same.
That's Alex? Something that I still haven't got quite a handle on.
Yeah, same.
Because last night I resumed as another character. I didn't start in the usual start location. I started near where the body of my last character was. Yeah,
that would explain some things actually. Yeah, because I was thinking my first couple of runs I was a bit annoyed because I seem to always start in the same place and just go through a big open area with some mimics in it, and hitting them with your basic starting weapon is kind of boring. And I thought I don't want to do this every time. But then as I unlocked characters, I was playing in totally new locations, and at first I thought it was because of the character. But then when I started fresh with those characters, they started in the old location. So yeah, I think it must be something to do with where you are. But the difficulty also escalates. And it escalates for as long as this simulation is running. So your character can die, and as long as you're another character, the simulation carries on, and you play as, I guess, it is just somewhere near where you died. You play as one of the other surviving characters, until they're all gone. And then the simulation resets. And when the simulation resets, everything can change. All those, different areas can be unlocked and locked off and hazards move around. And also all the loot resets and
fixed door, so you can, there are blocked off doors. I recognize them from the main game, but yeah, if you've repaired those doors as one of the characters, they'll be blocked off again.
And ultimately you're trying to, the final goal is to, everyone's trying to escape, but there are lots of different ways of escaping, and your ultimate goal is to get all 5 to escape in the same run without resetting the simulation. So if one of the first guy you play as manages to make it to an escape pod and takes the escape pod, the next person you play as won't be able to use the escape pod because it's gone now. And they also have different abilities. So there's only one who can hack. There's only one who can repair things. There's only one Those are the old ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Those are the ones that I've encountered. Yeah.
Different access to the alien powers and
So
stuff.
I heard there's one thing, like the objective for the volunteer, I think, is to escape through this portal, but the portal's actually broken and needs to be repaired, and he can't repair, and he can't ever learn the repair skill. So a different class has to repair it on the same run that you want him to get through it. And I think it even needs to be hacked as well by another class.
There's a 2-stage thing. So I think that one isn't possible until later on. But they all have, so like you have that as the kind of like a main objective, but they all have story objectives as well. So, so you instead you go off and experience the story for that character, which has the same sort of looping kind of sort of aspect to it.
It's really clever. Like, it's striking, like, it feels like a different game to Prey in some ways. It's not a sort of slow moving kind of horror thing. You know, the way that any game that takes after System Shock basically has that thing of sort of being half an action game, half a sort of systems driven action game, and half a sort of slow exploratory kind of immersive sim thing, but not an immersive sim in the way that like Deus Ex is, where you have all the power and you choose how you're going to handle an environment. It's it's the slow acquisition of resources, the kind of Metroidvania unlocking of things, and all of these, you probably spend not a lot of time with the best powers in the game because they all kind of focus towards the end of the campaign necessarily. This was really different in terms of how it's structured, and really different in terms of how it makes you feel about the resource management that is inevitably part of these games, right?
Yeah,
like
because that was a weird thing with Prey was I had crazy resource glut, and I heard a lot of players who had total resource starvation. And here I'm sort of merrily picking up everything at first, and then I start to realize actually I'm not going to live long enough to use most of this stuff.
Yeah,
and I need the inventory space for other things.
Yeah, an important thing you learn earlier on is that if you pick up all the stuff as one character, it's not there for the next characters.
Yeah,
but it's on your body when you die. But like,
oh really?
So you can find your body and get it all back. But
if
it
you
means
escape
that
with that stuff,
if you strip an area, like you may well be messing yourself up later on.
So there's a operator, which is the kind of drones in Prey's universe that can carry stuff for you, and you put stuff in the operator, and apparently that's shared between characters, so you can get it back from another character. But I was about to escape with the character, and as on my way to the shuttle, I was picking up a bunch of stuff, and then I thought, oh no, I shouldn't pick up this stuff. Now that I've got it, do I just drop it on the ground? I didn't have the drone yet at that point.
It should stay there.
Because there exists a drone specifically for transferring things between characters, that makes me think I can't transfer them by just dropping it on the floor.
I think the game state really is saved to a degree of granularity.
Because bodies are all there, like,
bodies of monsters are there.
Yeah, they're just left there. Yeah.
Awesome. And the neuromods, when you upgrade a character, seems to be just permanent. Like,
that's permanent,
even when you reset the whole simulation.
So what's permanent is the neuromods that you install, and there's some other stuff as well.
If you have some unspent neuromods and you die,
you
lose them. So that's really interesting because you get in a situation that I'm in now where I don't have enough I have some neuromods, but not enough to buy the next upgrade. So I don't really want to die with that character until I find like one more, so I can buy one of the 2 cost neuromods, because I'm taking those resources out of the world potentially permanently. I suppose although if it was on my corpse, it could be found by next me.
Yeah, but that next you isn't going to be the same character that you want to install it in.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. Like, if it's like what I'm saying, it's a completely different game, but like, it feels like you could release this as, this could be the high concept for an immersive sim. Like a full-fledged new immersive sim. And I feel like you go like, oh shit, like this is the most, maybe this is hyperbole, but like, this is the most significant structural evolution of that idea.
So there's a nice illustration of that where in the main Prey campaign, you'll use a security station to look up the location of a story-specific character's body.
Yeah.
So you can go and find the stuff that's on them, but it's all kind of coded into it's part of the story, and you're just following the breadcrumbs. Like in this one, it has seeded a lot of the bodies that are lying around the moon station with things like keycards, and this stuff is randomized, and the bodies lying on the ground are always randomized. So when you got to a door, it'll often said, door last used by.
Yeah.
So then you go to...
And that's a new feature, I think.
Yeah. You go to a security station and you find out where their body is, and suddenly you've got a new quest, a new reason to go and penetrate a different area of the...
This is, I have to say though, this is a huge security risk if you work at this place. Like, if there is a key card, it's going to tell everyone your name. Hey, if you need this key card, I know who you should hunt down and kill.
You can also use that to find your own body, can't you?
I guess so. Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Like,
I don't know what I'm called. I don't know what the operator's called.
Everyone has a name. Like,
yeah.
Do you mean the director?
You're a volunteer. You have a lot. You're always a named person. You're not just like a random character. You play one of 5 because you unlock one of them by finding their body.
Yeah, the security guy.
Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, there's the volunteer who's like this, just psionics and nothing else. And
which is interesting because that's the first character you have.
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
And that character has a really low amount of health.
Yeah,
but you're able to deal out
and you
damage.
He specializes in psi, but he doesn't know any psi abilities when you start. You've got to actually get some neuromods and upgrade him before he does anything at all. So it's a really tough start. So it's him. There's the engineer who can make a free turret. So she's my favorite character.
She's the best. And she's got high health and she can repair stuff.
And the turret thing is like kind of like a psi ability. Like you can just create it wherever and it's on a cooldown. And then when you want to, when it recharges, doing it again, like unsummons the existing one and then you can place the new one. But it's also just a physical turret so you can pick it up and move it like normal.
And they're randomized names, the turrets. They're kind of called bird names for some reason.
Oh, right. Is that what they are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a pattern I picked up. It might be more random than that.
I had a great, like, little physical comedy moment of, I was being chased by the moon shark.
I was going to mention the moon shark.
The moon shark is a right dick.
And I was hiding in a little, like, alcove, kind of ledge with some pillars and stuff. And, I thought, I don't need to face the moon shark. I'll just make a turret here. I built the turret and just, the instant it was built, a rock hit it and just, it just went off screen. Rock and turret just exited screen.
Yeah, I found a turret and dropped a turret. It's laid them up, kind of like jumped up and down. Cause it's, basically the moon shark is a very large typhon enemy which, tunnels under the ground and you can see its wake as it goes over this large kind of open area outside on the moon surface. And, if you touch the ground, it will hear the vibration or whatever and come for you. And it's sort of alerted by that.
Big old game of the floor is moon shark.
Yeah. So yeah, the object for that start of that, getting across there is there are stepping stone rocks where you can jump to and you jump like stepping stone across it. But anyway, I set it up, jumped up and down to attract it thinking my 2 turrets would be able to take it down. Yep. Chucked the rock and then which hit some sort of canister behind me as well and killed me.
Excellent.
I really like the new harvester robots that just sort of like beep at you and then try and hoover you.
Oh, right. So they don't hurt.
They can attack you.
Oh.
Because, this is what
I've avoided them pretty.
So I had to kill, I haven't died yet. I've only played 45 minutes, but not lost anyone yet. I managed to escape with the volunteer.
Yeah.
But the final room of that, so I haven't really experienced the randomization yet because I've not reset the world state. But the final room of that, because it had a new feature which is called a Typhon Gate, which is if the door can, so it feels very video gamey at first because it's like if the door can detect any Typhon material, any aliens within a certain radius, the door is locked. But actually it's nicely simulated in that, that's not a sort of, Devil May Cry style, please kill all the enemies to progress to the next room check. It is, it is just a logic thing. Is there an alien entity near this gate?
When the moon shark runs off, then the gate will open.
Yeah, exactly. And, it even warns you that if you inject enough Typhon into you to get the psi powers, then suddenly it will close for you as well. Like that kind of thing. And so to get to the escape pod, I think the volunteers' first way off the station, I had to fight 2 engineering operators, little flying drones, and 1 big Hoover. And something that was really like, the reason that was the moment it clicked for me that I felt like I was about to escape. And at the time I didn't really understand the structure that anything I take with me is gone from the map for the next character, none of that stuff. But even then, it's a different kind of saving. Like I had an EMP grenade and a stun gun and a shotgun. So as it started to try and hoover me up, I threw the EMP grenade into it and it kind of got pulled into it in a perfect way and then, detonated from the inside, and then I could shotgun the weak point on the back of it. And it was like, yeah, this feels good because I'm like using all of my resources up because I know the game is about to be over, even though I'd only been playing for half an hour. And that was like the right amount of time and the right little adventure with the right ending that used the right systems in the right way. And it's like, immersive sims don't deliver that often enough. Too often you approach that thinking, this is a hypothetically cool scenario, but I really don't want to waste my EMP grenade here.
Absolutely.
Like, hypothetically I could do it this way, but I don't really want to, because it's not efficient or because I really want to save this stuff for the boss and things. Like,
you really use your powers, really use the psi hyper, use psi powers, even though they're on a resource. That you're picking up.
And sometimes just do the thing of just blitzing through an area. Like, oh, those phantoms have turned the other way. I'm just going to scoot through here really quickly and not worry that because that you'll go back through the environment over and over again. And also because after a certain point that the environment's going to be regenerated and randomized, it makes the environment and exploring every corner of the environment less important in a way that I think is actually favorable to the experience. Like,
and at the same time, there is a real reward to exploring the environments, because once you know how areas link together, just as it was in original play, but this time it has a real meaning because you will be having to use these spaces over and over and over again as you try to figure out, right, I've got to get from here to this area to this area.
Yeah, like your reward is mastery, but it's not like the fear of missing content.
Yes.
Like, it's
you can go straight past a locked door and think, that's fine. There are loads of locked doors.
Yeah, like I've got a different mission. And that's something I've always wanted Immersive Sims to do, is make me feel like I don't value that right now because I have other things to worry about. Whereas secretly, part of you is always in player mode, where it's like, if I don't open if I don't, the hotel in Prey is a perfect example of this. Is it the hotel or is it it's the crew quarters? What I'm talking about. The habitation. Yeah. It looks like a hotel. That's why I keep thinking of it. The crew quarters, where there are so many rooms and they're so packed with story stuff, and that stuff's good. And there's side quests and things to discover, but it gives you that. It's in the Immersive Sims version of the big town paralysis, right? It's that
big hotel.
Yeah, big hotel. Or any big sort of Deus Ex hub area where you're like, I need to have been through all the bins in every single place. Or
also, I find it quite relaxing to come up to a hackable thing and see, this requires hack skill 3. Well, I can just never learn that. This character can never hack. Yeah. So I don't have to worry about it.
It's like every other immersive sim protagonist has uncapped potential, in that sense. And there's something really comforting about knowing, nope, I can't do that. I'll never be a violinist.
Well, it's the other way where you kind of feel you're a failure because you don't know something, because I didn't.
And the cost of that is that's stuff I'm supposed to see on a different run of this 40-hour game, and I'm on hour 30, that kind of thing.
This seems like it's going to be long. Yeah. I think that's the biggest difference between what I was imagining and what I got was they just showed the moon stuff, and I was just imagining it being sort of 3 or 4 little areas, one after the other in a linear fashion. And yes, they're different each time, but it's a series of levels you play through. But actually it feels much more like a big hub from the main game with all kinds of different regions. I still haven't explored all of it after 4 hours.
Yeah.
Do you know what it reminds me of, weirdly? Hitman episodes. And it's because of the sort of possibility thing. When you discover, these are the escape routes. These are the, and then you're given objectives to fulfill for your the corporation you work for that is sending you into this virtual moon.
We should say, you're actually, the story is that you are this kind of, person trapped on some sort of satellite or something in orbit around, presumably the moon or something.
Maybe you crash into the moon. That's the real moon crash.
Who's been asked by some corporation to go through a simulation of what happened on the moon in, some major disaster, playing as these different people who were kind of who did or didn't escape. I can't understand. And to understand what happened.
And then some asshole is just scrambling a simulation so you can't get good results. They could have done this way. Oh no, that's just blocked this time. Oh well.
But there's a driver to another driver to the fact that you kind of leave stuff behind, is that the difficulty level increases over time. Quite Risk of Rainy style, where there's an alert stage, the Typhons regenerate when you go over a threshold, and it gets harder, and they become more and more powerful as you go up. You get drops of this hourglass shaped item, which sets that reduces.
That one, I read the description for that, and it was just like complete fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, there was,
I mean, obviously it's all framed as a simulation, so they can get away with it. But it's like this is a subroutine that causes a delay in the timer for basically the difficulty.
It makes the difficulty timer go down. All right, what do you want?
Yeah. But I am very aware of that. I was at the start when I first started sort of playing it. I was terrified of it. Now I have a strong respect for it.
Did you see that difficulty timer right from the start?
I don't remember.
You see it because it's the first time you escape.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because there was a lot of stuff I assumed it was holding back from me because it was my first run, and I'm finding out like the first time through, I'm pretty sure, unless I just somehow failed to notice it, but I don't think there was a moonshot the first time I played.
No, there wasn't.
Okay, so that was true for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this the timer is like it makes me run through, and I feel a little. I don't know how I feel about it. I either think it's great because it's a really important part of the systems which make you keep moving and kind of leave Typhon behind and generally just get on with stuff and feel like there's stuff to be doing. None of the leisurely sort of lapping up all the content. But on the other hand, there is often spaces like really could do with waiting in, like, I want to get all of the items in this room because I need them. And I do want to read this note that someone's left because why not?
It does put stress on a thing that I already had a small issue with in Immersive Sims where I'm not so engaged that I want to read all the flavor text, but I do want to read, if there's some note that has some important information in it, I want the important information, but also I'll read the whole thing. Like I want to get the flavor text and the context for it. But when there's a time limit as well, I look at notes and I just skip them most of the time now because it's just, the chances of it being, I assume when you're actually reading a thing, hopefully time is paused then, right?
I think it might be for notes and things, but it's definitely not for emails.
Computers, yeah, because that's all in world, isn't it? Yeah, that sucks. But yeah, the time pressure thing is, it's a scary thing to put on the player, that people have very bad reactions to time limits. But it's quite slow and you can, it persists for the whole simulation run. So even if your character dies, if you're playing as another character in the same simulation, the difficulty will still be where you left off. So it'll be higher and higher. And I had my main run has been, where I unlock most of the characters and towards the end, I just unlocked the security guy by accident. Actually, I just stumbled across his body. And, so when my character died, as I knew they would anytime soon, I was able to carry on as a security person because I just unlocked them. And I did that. But by that point, I was like level 5, so everything was nearly invulnerable. And apparently at the max level, I haven't encountered this personally, but apparently at the max level, a mimic kills you in one hit. So I was on level 5, but and I could have just reset the simulation, unlocked a new character, I made some progress, so you can just press a button, reset the whole simulation, you're back at difficulty 0. But because there are so many ways to make persistent progress, it successfully tempted me into I might as well just play as this guy, just creep around, try and avoid the enemies. If I get a single neuromod and I install it, that's progress that is permanent. And also everything you do gets you these points that you can spend on equipping your characters each time you do a loadout.
So killing stuff, finding bodies.
Yeah, and you get loads of it. I was worried about spending 300 to get a pistol at the start of my run and then earned 46,000. Oh, okay, I can probably afford to spend
that's an interesting system as well, being able to find recipes to buy stuff between runs and...
Yeah, so the recipes that you found in the campaign, the Praise campaign, in this, they unlock them in the machine just as they did in the campaign, but they also get unlocked when you're outfitting your character at the start of a run.
Yeah, that system, the purchasing system I haven't really got into yet, but it's clear you can buy neuromods through it, for example.
Yeah,
which is quite
$3,000. It's not bad at all.
And yeah, with that playing as a security officer on maximum difficulty, it was actually really fun just to a single phantom is terrifying to me. And I'm just if I see one, I have to run and hide and then figure out if I can ambush it in some way and use the right kind of damage to take it out. By
that time you picked up enough stuff that you're actually pretty powerful.
Well, this was I just started as a security guy. Yeah. So some other fuckers have picked up all the good stuff and the level's nearly barren. Yeah, it makes perfect sense that I was starting where I left off because I was surprised. I had one run where, when I continued as a new character, I was in the same area and it was all picked clean. And that was kind of good because I actually just wanted to get my bearings and like figure out this new character and everything. And then the security officer, I was surprised that I was immediately in an area that was just thick with enemies and like totally hazardous. And so my brain didn't spot the pattern there. Like one time it was empty, the other time it was just really chaotic, but they were both the same thing. I started roughly where I left off. In one case, it was, I just finished that area. And in another case, I was just starting an area.
I think the reason I was going to say earlier, the Hitman comparison is my fear for it is, so like new Hitman, the pleasure of those levels was sort of initially kind of discovery and figuring out what all the routes were and figuring out what the possibility space was in terms of not just, obviously Hitman's a little bit different in that if you basically see escaping as the equivalent of getting the target, and in Hitman new ones there's always like 4 or 5 specific pre-planned ways for you to do that. Just finding the escape routes reminds me of that a little bit. Like, oh, this is this particular series of things I need to do to make the portal work or to get to the escape pod, that kind of thing. That, the issue I found with Hitman is that, not only an issue, but like at a certain point, I have seen it all and therefore don't feel the pressure to perfect it, to do every single, the sort of the main goal, of this is to hit all 5 characters out in a single run. But there's also a sense that each of the characters has like a preferred way out as well. So obviously there's like finishing it, and then there's finishing it plus, where you do a single run and get everybody out in the way that's perfect for them. And that is probably, I can see it now, that is probably the point where I check out, like having done it once, if you know what I mean. And that's not to say essentially a flaw, because it's good that people should have different degrees of being able to master the game. And that's certainly an improvement over, I think, where most games like this end up, where you finish it once, and then if you do play it again, it's purely out of curiosity to see stuff you might have missed or to try a play style that you might not have tried. But I can see that sort of I can see the mystique fading at a certain point and being replaced with purely the pursuit of the right ending or the right success. Or
I can certainly imagine, if it's big enough, like the YouTube kind of runs kind of, this is the, best way.
If you do not get this thing by this point, restart the simulation, that kind of thing.
That sort of thing.
It's interesting though, because the persistence messes with that a bit in terms of, I mean, I'm sure there'll be
you can't reset
a clean
it on your own,
run from zero, but, I'm sure there'll be much easier ways to do things if you have all your characters with all the neuromods they can possibly get. Because as far as I can tell, you have a limitless supply of neuromods, really. You can play as many times as you like, and every upgrade you make is kept permanently. So I actually had a cool situation that would never come up in the main game, where I was on, as the security officer in that desperate run with all the difficulty cranked up, I was on like 15 health, and I was in the middle of the fight. I was looking at my inventory, do I have any medkits? Do I have food? Just anything, give me a little bit of health, and I have nothing. And then I thought, I wonder what's in my neuromods menu. And the security officer has just, his list is enormous, and it's all physical stuff. It's just, a super fit man. I'm strong. I can run. I'm healthy. And one of the upgrades is max health. And I thought, well, it gives me 50 extra max health. I'm betting that's at least 50 extra health. And I got it, and it actually basically heals you nearly to max. And so I had 170 health suddenly. And so I spent a neuromod on a thing I didn't want, just to heal myself in the situation.
Yeah, I did that with the volunteer in my first run, actually, because you can get the one that heals you when you get hit.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like a way around, not effectively healing myself, but like mitigating a certain amount of damage taken, therefore giving me more effective health over time, if that makes sense. When you're unable to find stuff. It feels a lot gamier by necessity of both what it is, but also the fact that it's a simulation, which again, it benefits from. Like, I feel like that's from a storytelling point of view, that's a well that you can't keep going back to, like, as a way to explain, talking about the hourglass thing is probably the most obvious example of this, but like, you're limited a little bit in the types of stakes you can create when, it's all a simulation is your way of getting around this stuff. But actually, I quite like that about it. It kind of almost feels like a series of dungeon crawls as well. Like, it feels like, the immersive sim owes so much to games like Ultimate Underworld. And there is this sort of parallel evolution of both RPGs and, sort of traditional sort of pen and paper derived dungeon crawler RPGs, things like Ultimate Underworld leading to like Legend of Grimrock and those kinds of games, and System Shock into Deus Ex and Bioshock and Thief and that sort of family of games on the other side. And this feels weirdly like it's sort of reached across to the RPG side and pulled stuff over, not just talent trees and skills and things, but actually like structure. Like, here is a challenge room. You know, here is the monster for this area. How do you get past it? Not just, you know, what experience do you have in encountering it or that kind of thing, or the immersive part of the sim. Like it's fully in dungeon sim as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's totally recognizing that immersive sims came straight out of roguelikes or, you know, Rogue and things, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And like there's loads of, you know, that threat increasing thing is the equivalent of its hunger system or whatever, you know, from Rogue stuff. And, but it's, I thought so what stays consistent between runs is neuromods that you've equipped, chipsets that you've found.
Points.
So if you find a chipset, which are things that you install that give you kind of minor upgrades, fundamentally kind of passive minor upgrades, they will then become available in the shop when you start.
And that's not true for weapons, it seems. Like for weapons, you need the fabrication plan, right? For it to be in the shop.
And then fabrication plans also unlock them in the shop.
I've completed somebody's. I got confused at first because everyone has a story objective, and it says, "Oh, do this to unlock the story objective." And so I did that, and I'm just now realizing that wasn't the story objective, or that's not the story mission. There's now a story mission. By doing that objective, I've unlocked a mission. Have you done any of those missions?
I came so close to the end of the engineers one.
So
and I got killed right at the end. And honestly, the biggest problem with this is that this is a game in which you will get like, because there's only one character that can hack, there's only one character who can repair and things. It means that if you're on a run and that character gets killed before they've done the act that will do the thing that you wanted to do, like, because it's this sort of, you know, it's like a domino effect of things. Like you need this person to do this and then this person to do that. Like for you to be successful, it is really frustrating. Like you just really kind of like, oh God, you know, and I've had one run where, you know, I got a little way into, you know, trying to, I mean, as I discovered it, I couldn't make the escape because I needed the hacking for the Mimic portal, escape, because that was the next one flagged in the objectives list on the, you know, in the game. And, but I was sort of schlepping around as the volunteer who's the kind of the Psy sort of based one. And then realized that I'd previously already killed the engineer character. And then I realized that, oh no, this needs fixing. This means that on this run, I cannot do the thing that I thought I needed to do. And all of the stuff that I'd done up to that point, you know, unlocking doors and getting key passes and clearing out areas was for nothing. And I'd have to reset the whole thing to do that. And that feels like it might be a big issue because a run is like, you know, you're talking about like careful play is going to be an hour, 2 hours. I don't know. Like, you know, it's Prey, you know, you play it even with that constantly ticking kind of danger zone timer. Yeah. You're playing carefully and, you know, methodically.
It feels like the thing that I was, as soon as I unlocked the engineer and I got the ability to summon turrets, I slightly misunderstood what that meant. And I thought that was going to, because it says, it does a lot of pop-ups for things that I knew from Prey 1, but sort of Prey 1, 2, 0, Origins. And it was like, here's how to summon an ally, and it's referring to the turret, but I was like, oh, can I pull the other characters into existence? If they, you know what I mean? It feels like the missing part of the puzzle is the ability to change character and complete those tasks for somebody else and sort of play all 5 runs quasi simultaneously. If that makes sense. Cause you're right.
Go into like a closet and someone else comes out.
That optimal run, does require knowing what order to do things in with what different characters and what kind of, and I can see the satisfaction in that.
Yeah, there's definitely satisfaction.
And I'll definitely watch a YouTube video of someone doing that. And I definitely won't do it.
But yeah, because mistakes, you just think, oh, I misunderstood that. And then I didn't realize.
It would be good if, this is maybe a bit backseat game designy, but like, I do feel like that stems from locking off repair and hacking, particularly behind 2 characters. And I can see why they would do that, because if any character can learn any skill, then players will approach it completely differently. They'll probably max everything out on one character and then just run the others through. But it would be interesting if like there were like one-use items that were pretty rare that like did a hack or did a repair.
Yeah.
And so, you could find a way around it. Or, if you find that item as the character who doesn't need it, you stash it somewhere for the other character, and that then becomes interesting rather than just a roadblock.
Oh, I know how they could do it, in a really hacky way. There is actually a bit where there's a skill you don't have and you need it. And so you use a, connect to me device to transfer a skill from someone else's brain to yours. So you should have to try and find the corpse of the hacking character and then plug into them and like use neuromods to absorb. You can like pick one of their skills just to have for this run and use that.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be a bit good mitigating kind of thing.
Yeah, it should make you think, but I agree with you that I would find that. I'd find that sort of like progress loss thing a sort of...
I mean, and then, apart from, I think that you'd learn your way around that, because I have made that mistake since, but when you die, because this is still an immersive sim, this is still Prey where, like a sequence of events happens which sees you die, completely unexpectedly, and it's all fair. Like it really, you were standing next to the explosive canister or whatever, but like it does mean that sort of all that care has just gone in the moment. Like it's when the Typhons turn up the what are they called? The ones that can do fire columns.
Weavers?
Oh no, they're kind of figures.
Do you mean a phantom type?
Type, yeah. But I have fucking problems with them. I
have problems with fucking poltergeists.
Oh, they're dickheads, yeah.
Physics damage is just random. It rolls a dice and that's how much damage it does.
Yeah. Big dice as well.
Yeah.
You can't shoot them because they keep disappearing and they keep taking your weapon out of your hands.
Yeah.
But anyway, apart from that, it's fucking good.
They've added so much stuff. So this is in the base game as well now, but when you get injured, there's different traumas you can have. I had one where every time I jump, I lose 10 health.
What?
I never learned. It can't kill you, so it only take you to 1 health at minimum. But and also you self-repair to 20 health, at least my current character did. I don't know if that's true for everyone. So I was on 20 health and then I would just jump and then go, and then I go blood on my screen.
That's how I feel about real jumping.
And then you lose a bit of health when you land as well. So it's like,
oh, my ankle.
And also if you sprint, you lose like 5 health a second.
What?
Yeah.
This is sort of like physical.
So you can only get those repaired by special, like there'll be a particular kit
like
for
a
that
trauma
jumping
kit,
one.
Yeah.
And it'll only fix that one thing.
That's what the skeletal. Yeah. Okay, fine.
That skeleton repair one would have done for me. I think my skeleton was in trouble.
I had no idea. I keep finding
punched
them.
Right in that skeleton.
Because you can't use them if it's totally unusable.
Sorry, you can also, but I'm your doctor and it's my duty to tell you, you've got bad skeleton.
It's bad until it'll be good again. A medical operator will fix all of those things for free. And so I started looking at the map for once and figuring out, okay, the trauma center. That sounds like where I need to go with my broken legs.
I'd like the map to remain revealed between runs because I keep kind of getting. Well, you see the thing, but it's not marked with the stuff. I don't think.
Right.
I could be going wrong. It's just like, come on.
Is that between characters or between simulation restarts?
Simulation restarts.
I presume it's different when you restarts.
Not, but everything's in the, the trauma center is still the trauma center. Because the entire physical space is completely the same every run, we should probably know.
Yeah, it's not room based in that way.
It's just items will be different in the cases.
It's a lovely designed moon base. It is nice, so it looks nice. I mean, obviously, Prey look nice, but it feels it's a good looking moon.
Yeah.
There's a grenade that makes a tentacle come out.
Yeah.
There's glue grenades now. There's glue turrets. And yeah, there seems to be like, for every damage type, they've now got a grenade.
What is the use of the grenade that makes a tentacle come out?
The tentacle hits things. I wanted to see it in action and I wasn't able to because I was attacked by a phantom and a mimic and I decided to just throw the tentacle grenade at them and shut the door. And then the score system informed me that the mimic had died. And then when I opened the gate, the phantom, I think had left and the tentacle was just despawning at that time. So I didn't see what it did to them exactly. But
it's presumably like because there's a Typhon kind of, like enemy that is just tentacles that come out of a pod thing.
Yeah, is that new as well?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen them before.
Yeah. God, I hate those fucking, cyst things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, idiots.
Like, they just take 1 damage, but I don't know. And I can't find any way to kill them. It doesn't consume ammo, but they're not.
If they're
It seems so
together,
trivial.
you can shoot them once and the explosion from one will take the others.
Yeah, I haven't found that always works.
No, it doesn't always work. They're just idiots.
Idiot bastards. So we should name all the monsters in Prey.
I do like that I don't know if it's their preferred method or the method you're challenged to do with each character seems to fit their personality in some way. So like the scientist wants to upload their consciousness to escape, and then the security officer wants to, I think, fire himself from a cannon. It just says escape by mass driver. Well, I can only think of one way a cannon to let me escape.
I like that we've got the magic guy, we've got the fixie one. Like, let's have the one with all the guns.
Yeah. One of them is like a rogue sibling, I think.
Yeah.
By the looks of things as well, which is fun.
And that's the director/scientist. And they also have the stealth abilities, interestingly, so I'm going to like them.
Oh, okay. So like a director, so they a lot of their skills relate to doing memos and
yes, bureaucracy. Like science and being an executive of a company and also alien magic are all kind of the same skill set in Prey.
Yeah, that is sort of like almost like a family kind of behavior pattern as well.
Yeah.
Like, corporate management, science, turn into a cup.
It actually makes me wish that, that your mana is called Psi as in PSI. I kind of wish they just called it SCI. Like, this is your science juice. I'm going to use these science abilities with some of my science. Oh, I'm out of science. I need a science operator.
But yeah, it's dead good. I was, because I
Yum, yum.
I was, I need to learn how to talk. Last week I couldn't read. This week I can't talk, which is more serious. No, because you guys were playing it, and it's a £13 expansion. And that is the exact price point for these kinds of things where I get a bit worried, because that can mean almost anything in games. Like, £20 plus you expect something.
That looks substantial.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Destiny
£5
one.
can be anything from some hats to a brilliant little map pack or something. I guess maybe it's so variable across the board, but 13 quid particularly is like out of pure dabble range if this turned out to be just what I thought it was really, which was like a replayable moon arena where you fight enemies from Prey.
Yeah, I figured that it would be a set of rooms that would just be sort of reconfigured every time.
Yeah, like combat encounters. It's like, I liked Prey's systems, but do I really want to do that kind of thing? And so when you guys both sort of said like, it's great, I felt capable of going in and putting money down for it. And now I'm really impressed. Now it's like, oh wow, this is, I want someone to make a whole game built around this idea. Not that it isn't, but you know what I mean? I kind of want this to have been Prey from the start to some extent.
Yeah, very much, yeah.
And that's a very, very pleasant surprise. But yeah, I can, it does feel like they haven't fully explained what it actually is, if that's reasonable. Hopefully we have now.
Yeah, it didn't come across to me.
I think it's because I didn't really read about it very well. I did. Because
I tried. It wouldn't fucking tell me. Or it was just sounded confusing.
Yeah.
It is, there are basically 3 different levels of persistence / resetting. There's like character persistence and there's simulation persistence and then there's overall persistence. And so it is tough to explain without just giving a shitload of examples.
And to understand the Prey thing of kind of finding alternative routes and finding links between this place and that place and exploiting them and, and then the emergent stuff like it. Yeah.
If they'd said though that like it's a big new hub with like 5 major areas that, all with their own look, I think I would have had a totally different picture in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing is if you're thinking about getting it, I recommend firing up Prey itself since the update to check that the controls haven't completely broken for you, because they had for me. They've added Steam controller support, and I usually play with a gamepad, but even if I didn't want to play with a gamepad, the controls are just totally fucked up for me since the update, where it was telling me to press, like to reset controls to defaults, I had to press the consume button. Like it just said, press consume. Like, what the fuck is the consume button? That on my keyboard or my controller. So basically all the like control links have been replaced with like Steam controller keywords.
It's one of the Steam controller keywords, consume.
They're per game, so they're set by potentially users. And so, eating something through your inventory, the button for that is a special control.
Fine. I was like, hold your thumbprints to the consume button to enjoy Steam.
This is functionality we'll be releasing in Steam in the upcoming
Steam Cronenberg edition. Yeah. But it eventually mostly solved it by going through the 18-step process on their Steam forums, because they're aware of this. And
has it happened to other people?
Yeah, it's happened to a lot of people. In the main game and in Mooncrash, there's a separate FAQ for Mooncrash for all the ways it can fuck up in that. And Xbox controller support used to work perfectly in Prey. I played the whole game with that and it was fine. Now they've supported Steam controllers. They've moved the other controller support onto the Steam controller system. So it's actually emulating a mouse, which is horrible. So all this came about because when I fired it up, it worked, but aiming was like it would take 5 seconds to turn around. Like it was absurdly slow. And like you can't change. I also couldn't use the menus at all because it was telling me to press consume. And eventually found out, it's the right stick is now emulating a mouse, and you have to separately set the sensitivity of that mouse in the Steam controller settings. And you can't access the Steam controller settings unless you're in big picture mode. So you have to like get out of your desktop and be in big picture mode and navigate to that. And then, also the game doesn't work at all for me unless I disable the Steam overlay. So I can't do this while the game is running. I have to at first I thought I had to quit out and restart it to change the sensitivity. And then I discovered, oh no, it's okay. I can Alt-Tab back to Steam, then tell Steam to go into big picture mode, which takes over the whole computer, then change the sensitivity, then quit out of big picture mode and go back into Prey, and then the sensitivity has changed. And I've just now got it working, but I was like so close to just giving up on this whole fucking thing. If it wasn't an immersive sim plus roguelike, I would have given up on it.
Also, it's, while we're getting into the things that are annoying, it's annoying that you have to load Prey and then load Mooncrash when they're obviously
Do you not get the little dialogue come up?
I haven't been getting that.
It didn't come up for me last night, actually, now I come to think of it, because I was confused as to why.
So should you get a launch Prey or launch Mooncrash dialogue box? I've just been getting launching Prey and then clicking launch Mooncrash, and they're different executables.
There may have been an update yesterday because...
Well, it was working for me today.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
But I did have a weird thing right after I bought it where Mooncrash... I was just launched straight to Prey, and the only link I had was to buy Mooncrash, even though I already owned it, and it took like... Later that evening, it finally popped up and realized I owned it.
Huh.
Prey launched with some odd kind of...
It did, yeah.
Things as well.
Well, it's not called Moon completely functional. Good.
I just wanted to mention another game I've been playing very briefly because I haven't really played enough of it. I played quite a few hours of it, but I don't feel ready to talk about it, especially since it's not even on PC yet. But if you've played King of Dragon Pass, which is a venerable texty, story, narrative-y RPG management game that came out, I don't know, quite a few years ago now. In which you play the leader of a tribe. A follow-up has been released called 6 Ages, and it's on iOS at the moment. It might be on Android. I'm not sure. I think it might be just iOS with a PC version planned. And I just wanted to say that I've been playing it because I think you should probably be quite interested in it for when it comes out on PC because it is a lot. The original was quite janky to play. I was kind of put off by just how I didn't really understand the interface and things, and it was all a bit ugly. It is now pretty and works really nicely, and you have you manage a tribe which is moved to a new land, having after the civilization that they came from having been destroyed, so they've all gone on a kind of a what's the word? Exodus, a journey to find a new place to live. So you're all in this kind of grassland, basically, and trying to establish yourself with all these other tribes alongside you. And it's very, very dynamic. Very, you at any point in the game you can send emissaries to talk to the tribes next door, or you can do a ritual and build a temple to a god, which will confer to your tribe certain advantages. Whether developing your weapons, you can go raid other tribes. You can sort of set grand plans, such as building your tribal hall and things like that. Everything helps out, but there are only certain things that are good for you at any time. But then underpinning all this is a very, very rich lore, legends and things, which are, I don't think they're generated. I think they are written, but they're very in depth and very, very legendy, like very, like sort of suggestive and strange and all about interpretation. And you will need to interpret them because there are events that will happen to you as you play, as you send out somebody that progresses time on an emissary, send them out as an emissary to another tribe that advances time, and then a picture will turn up and then some text with the multiple choices to what you do about it. And sometimes your knowledge of the law will help you make the right decision. Which, and again, it's suggestive, like it's not dictatorial about this stuff. And there's rarely the best response. There are some better than others, but, it's really open and interesting. And, there, in my first playthrough, a story may be starting to emerge, like one that's kind of going to be defining what's happening, because I'm getting attacked by these kind of like demonic kind of tribes that have appeared. It's really interesting, but I haven't played enough to really say much more about it until,
It's on iOS at the moment, right?
iOS for now.
Cool.
Rad.
I missed King of Dragon Pass, and everyone keeps telling me I should play it, so maybe I won't. I'll wait for this.
I'm kind of tempted to go back to it to see whether my kind of distaste for its UI was maybe a bit unfair. Now I know how to play it.
The thing I've actually been playing, speaking of going back to things, with that in mind, is I've gone back to Pillars of Eternity, which I threatened to do a couple of months ago now, or like a month ago, because I really want to play Dreadfire, and so I'm playing the first one, obviously. And I'm almost back to where I was originally. Yeah, thanks.
Do you know how far through the game that was?
Like 40 hours, something. But what I'm finding is I'm finding myself, and I've played a lot of CRPGs in my time, but I found myself approaching this particular run in a different way that I previously, where I've basically gone away and read up on how all the systems work. Because now Pillars of Eternity has been picked over enough that people really, really, really know how to build, how to build parties and things for the super hard difficulty levels to play it as a game, right? So I learned that, and I'd never really bothered to learn it before. And I'm not playing at a difficulty level that requires it, but it's allowed me to kind of set my own difficulty level in a way where I'm like playing on a difficulty level where the fights are interesting, but with a kind of overpowered knowledge of how characters work and how to kind of like proper maximize a character. And for some reason I found that really gratifying. I don't know what particular thing it is. It's like, it's more satisfying than simply playing on everyone explodes when you touch them difficulty, the sort of story mode only difficulty, because you engage with the systems a little bit, because you're kind of executing this machine more efficiently. But it's definitely filled some sort of gap in the experience for me, that now I know that my party is like pretty much as effective as it can be. And it shortens a lot of distances because I don't spend myself worrying about how to upgrade my character. Like, this will sound really stupid. Maybe it's really obvious, but like taking the time to fully understand how the stats work means that I now instantly know what to sell out of what I've got. And that's, as someone who is a very fussy RPG player who reads everything and spends ages in town, it's cut down so much of the experience that I'm not worrying about that stuff. I don't know why it's helped quite so much, but it's been really kind of breezy. And then I'm playing it as a game where like, I just play like an adventure. I do a quest and then that's it for the day kind of thing. But doing an hour a day and kind of treating it as like a little project to get through this big thing has been really entertaining, because I've not been binging it and getting tired of it, but nor have I been kind of like leaving it to one side and losing momentum. And I think between those things, sort of like pacing myself, but also really understanding the systems and being able to move through things a little bit quicker as a result, I've managed to avoid big town problems to an extent that I haven't managed in any game like this, I think, for ages. So that's actually been really nice. Like, I don't want to dig into the game itself too much because it's Pillars of Eternity and people know what that's like, I think. But yeah, it's just like, oh, this is a really, like a hobby now, like, chipping away at it hour by hour, which I've realized is actually exactly how our friend and former PC Gamer production editor Tony Ellis plays these games. And I finally come around to it after years. They're like, yeah, just treat it as a book where you read
like a chapter,
10 pages a night, and eventually you'll finish it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, there's like a nice, I've been playing Yakuza 0 at the same time, and obviously that's on PS4, but it's coming out on PC. It is coming to PC, yeah. And that is divided into chapters, and they are a nice length. Like, you can get through a chapter in a session, and you feel like, okay, I've made some progress, because this has that same vast feeling as an RPG because you just don't know when it's going to end. But bring back chapters. Chapters are good. Chapters, maybe there's a reason why chapters first became a thing.
It's nice to be told you're allowed to stop now. Yeah. Also, the good thing about Mooncrash, you die or something, there's like loads of clear breakpoints.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, I guess this is progress. Like,
getting killed is kind of a snap point for me. So I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, that's true. But nonetheless, like, there's a sort of, like, telling players that it's okay for them to stop now rather than waiting for them to get tired or bored is probably really good for getting people to come back. Maybe that's some, like, sort of hidden secret of why roguelikes became so popular again. Maybe that's part of it. It's like, it's really obvious when you're allowed to stop playing.
Same with Slay the Spire. Well, yeah, that's exactly the same as Slay the Spire.
What, that it's obvious when to stop playing?
Yeah.
I found that I often want to stop playing before I can. I mean, you can just quit. It's very good at saving your progress.
It says, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I'll complete a whole act, and because they give you something right then and there and you think intensely about how it's going to affect your build. Right after you choose it, you want to see, was I right? Is this going to work? Is this plan? I can't quit then and there. So I feel I have to play a whole run all in one session. And sometimes when I do quit, it's when I've lost engagement. I'll get to a certain point and I'll either see, this build, I haven't died yet, but this build isn't going to work. It's not going to stand up to the harder enemies. So I just quit. Or sometimes I've had it where like, this is working. It's fine. I don't think I want to play it anymore. And I don't know if that's, cause I've played it a lot now. And so like,
you're getting that kind of just min-max. Well, not min-max is probably, but it's that feeling like, okay, I can feel the wind blowing and it's not.
Yeah. The question of like, will I win or not doesn't feel massively interesting to me anymore. It's much more about like the ones I get excited about are the decks that are like, oh my God, this one's just insane. I can kill anything on turn one or that kind of thing. I just need bigger and bigger fixes, more and more damage per turn. 100 damage per turn used to be enough for me. Now I need 500. But yeah, that also might be partly because I got what I wanted in terms of, I used to complain I had too much randomness, and now they've added a custom game mode where, I talked on the last podcast briefly about, you could enter special seeds that unlock certain modes. They've just made that into a mode now where you just check boxes to say, I want to pick all the cards I get. And it is really good, but now it has raised my standards for how good a deck needs to be before I get excited about the prospect of it being successful or not.
Built up a resistance.
Yep. On the other hand, I've played it for like 100 hours, so it's not really surprising that it's starting to lose some of its charm.
Should we do some questions?
Yes.
Good.
Let's do that.
All right. First question comes from Simon, who writes, Dear CNC, what are your thoughts on whether publications credit journalists for their work? Do you feel empowered to give harsher criticism when writing anonymously, knowing that you'll never be attributed to the review article? Is it harder to get work as a journalist if your work is not credited? Regards, Simon. Just a little pause of tension there, although you knew what his name was already. Yeah, interesting. So I got my break writing anonymously, and if that sounds like a contradiction in terms, well, thanks for that, Alex.
Sorry about that, Chris.
That's all right. My first published games journalism was in, I can't say where it was, obviously.
Because it could never be known.
My first contributions to the craft of games criticism, were consumed and emanated out of a block of, like,
just game
smooth
journalism.
Obsidian. A single, imperceptibly deep, shiny obelisk that simply emerges from a building in Bath and honks a number every now and then. And then you know if the game is good or bad. And then my start was telling that obelisk how good indie games were. But unfortunately I couldn't tell anyone else that I had done that. Because those are the terms of my agreement with the obelisk.
So this was like back in the early social media days.
Yeah.
Like it was very, like, I remember all the kind of like, oh, such and such freelancer has said that they wrote something for us. How dare they? And,
someone told me off once for sort of saying, I was really pleased that I got to write something for Edge magazine. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I even said what it was.
Wow. Yeah, the silence must never be broken.
Yeah, you have there's a credits panel.
Yeah, isn't there a masthead?
Yeah, there's a final panel.
Yeah, but it doesn't say who wrote what.
That's true, but I didn't say what I'd written. I just said I was in the magazine. But,
Maybe there was the fear that there was at the top of the slope and you were careening down it.
Yeah, the rest of it.
Going down a dangerous path, Dustin.
Identifying what you had worked on.
I genuinely and always will admire that attitude because it is the opposite of how YouTube, and you could argue almost all web media functions. Yeah. It is the antithesis of it, right? Like not big picture of my face in front of the video game on the thumbnail. It's like the opposite of Angry Joe is
Angry Edge.
And the obelisk says no.
I think there is definitely space in there. Like I feel comfortable writing for Edge because of that, because I can say things and not have it stick to me, like, and believe in it, but kind of not want to have to deal with people just disagreeing.
I think that to me is more of a factor of writing for print than writing for the web.
Well, in the old days, we'd be on Gaff and Roma.
Oh yeah. I mean, supposed to be forums.
That's endlessly.
That's slightly different though. Like you can get. It's not about not having people disagree with you or having people. It's that comments specifically are a particular form of just sort of horrible shit. Really, like it's never. Occasionally you get a good, well-reasoned, well-argued and polite critique of the thing you've written, and you should be able to, absorb that. But most of the time, it's the sort of angry, knee-jerk responses of people who don't know why they were forced to read this because it showed up in their Facebook feed and they clicked on it.
Or they may, they haven't read it.
And they haven't read it, or whatever it is, right? So, like, writing for print exclusively is more freeing than writing for the web is. But even then, that's only a comfort thing. It's not what you'll actually say. Like, I'd never give a different score or anything like that.
No. But, but it's beyond not wanting to cause, things don't come back on you in the same way. Like, with Edge, there was a sensation that kind of like, because it was the magazine's voice, kind of, the obelisk, sort of, you had a weight behind, it meant
that obelisk got your back,
if you made a statement, you would have to justify it within. I think that when you write these days for websites, because it's pinned to your name, you can say what you like, and often the website won't really question you on it. Like, they won't. Often you'll be sort of just allowed to say things. And because it's your opinion, and that's fine. With Edge, there was a sense that kind of you were representing the magazine, but then you'd have the magazine supporting you because they agreed with you. They would trust in you. There was there's a real contract there, in its best cases anyway. Like there are loads of problems with that, of course, as well.
Yeah,
notably the fact that like it stunted your freelance career, surely.
Well, it was like, I mean, it was funny when I finally got into the office doing sort of busy work for PC Gamer initially, and sort of people like, have you done any kind of writing before? And I was like looking over at the Edge team where you guys are like, yeah, but I can't say for who. Point.
We weren't that precious within,
not within the office, no, not at all.
But yeah.
No, but yeah, like, I was going to say, like, should we do another question? But then I realized that I'm the questions man. And you guys are all waiting on me to find a different question. And I'm doing it right now. And that question comes from Diffraction Man, who writes to say, hello all. I tend to struggle a lot speaking clearly, and I'm always fumbling over words. So hearing a tipsy Chris read out my question last pod was very authentic. You're welcome. Listeners that can barely read or speak will enjoy every performance I give. I thought on the loot box. Hang on. Fuck.
Here we go. Stumbling all over
I'm
again.
just trying to get cadence. I thought on the loot box discussion from a few pods back and how in most games random loot systems are the only way to get what you want, be it cosmetic, hats or MMO loot. So what game systems have you seriously engaged with, despite knowing that they were awful systems? Systems where the data on how much people engage with them are about as reliable as a dictator's voter turnout. All the best. Diffracty.
I mean, I think
What system bad, but nice?
awful is probably not what I describe Destiny's systems as, but I definitely felt like I was being led on a dance, but I kind of enjoyed that. And the kind of like the sort of a sense of elation at getting an exotic or a very minor upgrade to a gun that caused no difference to how it felt or looked or anything. Like I subsumed into it until the spell broke, and then suddenly I never played it again.
Yeah.
I guess actually I had that with Diablo, all the Diablos, but most recently Diablo 3, where finding an item that just like does 1.6 more DPS than your 3000 DPS axe, it's like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is better, this is actually got something better. And then of course, if that stat wasn't there, if it didn't tell you how much damage it did and you tried it out, there's no way any human on earth could tell that it was any different.
Yeah, there's that kind of, because especially since Diablo's numbers kind of, they fly out of stuff, but they're randomized and they're on the screen for such a short amount of time. You'll never see like,
You just know that there are numbers, and that's nice.
Yeah.
I wonder actually if it got more or less addictive since they summarized it. Because Diablo 3 really boils it down. It's just, in general, you'll be doing about 10% more damage if you equip this. You'll lose some strength, but you'll gain some DPS, and you'll do more damage versus zombies, and zombies are this percentage of enemies, and like it's doing a lot of calculations behind the scenes to just estimate that stuff. And it makes those decisions really easy. It's very quick to decide. It's just, this does more damage, but I have less defense. Fine, I'll do it. But maybe back in the old days where you had to kind of figure that stuff out, maybe some of the magic was in that uncertainty of like, I think, look at the damage, just the raw damage. It does so much damage per hit. And yes, it's less hits per second, but it seems exciting.
It kind of supports the thing, the kind of the Diablo 3 thing of doing the Rift dungeons and increasing the difficulty level, because you just feel your way through it. Like, let's try a higher difficulty level, and you kind of tentatively go through, and it's like putting your finger into your thumb, your big toe. Let's go through
putting your foot thumb into
put your nose in there,
into like a hot bath, and you kind of I can take this. Like that's like, I quite like that feel basedness of Diablo.
Yeah, I think my answer to this is inevitably like Dota battle passes and things, which are paid for tickets to a system where you can get more paid for things, basically like buying a ticket to a raffle that is full of itself, full of raffles. And
cascades and cascades.
Yeah, it's raffles. Like, the babushka doll of raffles. And you can lay that all out why that's bad, but actually buying things is nice. And
have you considered?
Have you considered what if late capitalism was just sort of fun, and you just sort of it was empty, but you bought yourself a little treat, and then you were like, I'll buy a few more boxes and get some hats, and you're like, this is worthless. But what is anything worth really? I've been entertained for 48 seconds as the little men span around revealing what hat I actually got. And what price can you put on that? $2.99. And, that's fine, actually, is what I'm saying. Actually, more seriously, there's, I think in terms of, in assessing whether or not, there's a separate consideration, which is that I think, for better or worse, retail therapy is a real thing. And so a lot of these systems that are sort of abusive on the surface and certainly are bad in that they can, play to addictive tendencies and things, and people can end up harming themselves by spending far too much on them. I think it's incorrect, however, to say that there isn't a sort of fundamental appeal to those things, to collecting, to spending, to having the object, even if it's a virtual object that you didn't previously have.
Yeah.
And obviously that's how they get you. That's the mechanism by which you are got.
But then you did spend, 100 hours over the past month or whatever playing the game for free.
I think maybe this is the thing, more than anything else with those systems, it highlights to me how utterly divorced from any kind of conceivable system or structure or scaffold the value of what you pay money for has become. Like, no longer do you spend, particularly with games, there is no meaningful sense of how much a video game is, right? the most popular game in the world is free, but makes huge amounts of money from nowhere. Like, you know, like, it's, if I say, was this worth the cost of a book? You probably have a sense of how much that is. The cost of a game, although if you are of a certain generation, maybe your mind goes to that sort of £40-45 point. The vast majority of games you play are not that. It's not connected to anything.
Yeah, it's gone insane. It's like that thing of, you know, you buy a game on iOS for 99p, but like somehow that's okay that it's 15 quid on PC.
And to this you apply like the cost in terms of your data that you're getting, like, you know, the sort of the payment you're making is in terms of your time, whether or not you're providing multiplayer opponents for players that do spend money, and therefore you are paying for yourself in that way, or whether they're simply harvesting things about you and using that to improve the experience for people who will spend money or to make you spend money. Like,
I think it's cool that that's happened. Like, it's in some way,
it's sizzling takes Francis.
it's cool.
This is good though.
I like it. Have you considered? Maybe it's just cool.
No, go on.
What I was going to say was that, comparing to like books and films, like one of the reasons the prices of those things are so steady is because you just get the same thing every time. It's like, if the movie, it's an hour and a half, maybe it's up to 3 hours, but when it is, people kind of bitch, oh, fucking, that's 3 hours, really? And if it's, you know, less than an hour and a half, it's like, oh, it's a bit short. And then games, people do bitch, but we've successfully established a culture where it's just accepted that games are radically different things to each other. And how much their worth is different. And we do argue about it, but the fact that there is a, you know, very steady and, successful market for things that cost $10 and a very steady and successful market for things that cost $60, and they coexist it just shows how different games are.
Yeah, it's like what is at once kind of extremely sort of distinct and creatively liberating about the medium, which is its lack of distinctness. No one knows what the fuck a game is, basically. Is also a source of like almost cosmic peril when it comes to how much money you can be tricked into giving away, and what economies, like unfathomable economies that you can enter into without even really knowing what you're consenting to. Where
it's like this dream. They just get into this kind of eternal dream.
I always I don't have the rest of this story, but I really like the idea of like an end user license agreement as a form of like cyberpunk Necronomicon. Like you're entering into some kind of pact, but you really don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't have time to parse it. Nobody does. And the document has been written with that in mind. Yeah. That like, you don't want to read this. Like, yeah, it's like a mechanism within a legal framework that it has to exist, but it's also an opportunity to trick you into giving something away. It's crazy. It's fascinating, but also horrifying.
Or quite
but,
cool.
And then the wizard spins around, and then, oh no, you didn't get the one you wanted, but if you buy a new chest, you're guaranteed to get something you don't have. And you never play this character, but you got this cool hat for them now, so maybe you'll give them a go, and your life has been meaningfully improved in at least that way.
Just for a sliver of time.
Ah, good.
Ah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. The next question comes from Sean, who writes, "Hi CNC. Recently there was an article on the PC Gamers site about Fortnite making loads of money. While this in itself wasn't that surprising, what shocked me is that there were no less than 3 Korean or Chinese games that beat out Fortnite in terms of the global PC revenue. I spent a large chunk of my day researching said games and being amazed at how I had zero knowledge of them at all beforehand. Am I just ignorant, or have any of you been in a situation where a game passes you by completely, but is actually the biggest thing in the world? Cheers, Sean." So I can say, I mean, I've spoken about it a bunch, but like, I was in China almost a year ago, and my experience in China, of the Chinese games industry, and going to China Joy, which is the biggest games expo in China, was, oh shit, China's real big. Like, and that sounds really dumb and pat, but it's real, it's very true. And like, you can appreciate that fact in abstract, but seeing it and realizing that there's this whole ecosystem for games and whole, market for an audience for games that is vastly bigger in a lot of ways than the one we operate within, and has very little crossover, like very few games making that transition from China to,
It's interesting. I spoke to somebody just today because I'm writing a piece about a fund which is sort of trying to cross, to fund games that in part translate to Chinese markets as well as Western ones. And apparently things are changing in China, where in the past they've been kind of fueled by freemium and a lot of piracy, but now people are earning a lot more money. Premium games, standard kind of, put a load of money down once and you own it, is apparently growing, and tastes are surprisingly similar to they found in a study that they did that the tastes between general French gamers and German gamers was larger than between general Chinese gamers and American gamers.
Yeah. That in itself doesn't surprise me, because there's a huge market for Assassin's Creed despite it being banned. That was the stat that I like the most. Like, it's like the third biggest market for that game in the world, despite the fact that you can't buy it there. Which is just to point out that, like, simply being sold on a grey market kind of back channel in China is bigger than being sold in Germany. Like, that's the scale of difference. But it's the existence of these games that maybe that's the other point, is that it's the existence of games that are massive in China or massive in East Asia generally that simply don't get released over here. And that's a bigger topic. Like, why, like, I talked about, I think, going over there and seeing the Chinese version of Torchlight, where there's some changes made for free to play and to sort of incorporate it into that ecosystem. But it's there in a sort of, I think it was there in a Tencent booth or a Perfect World booth alongside lots of other Chinese games and things that sort of fit in. But you almost never see it the other way around. You never see, there's not a section of E3 given over to the latest Chinese games to come over. And I think that says, I don't feel qualified to weigh in on all of the factors that lead into that, though I guess at some of them. But, like, that's a sort of interesting thing. Not so much why do these games exist and we pass them by, or how the tastes change, but why is the industry constructed in such a way, or why is taste constructed in such a way that the reverse isn't true, if that makes sense.
Maturation, like, my kind of uninformed sort of cool take on it would be, like, at the moment you've got an enormous market for games in China, but not an enormous amount of supply within China.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas, because the development of games kind of as a large sort of industry hasn't been the case for very long. Where, over here it's, in the West, in America and Europe, it's been, and Japan it's been there for a while. And there's a sort of, work practices and stylistic choices, and, like, there's lots of ability to kind of export something that's very, but, like, I suspect it will turn around quite rapidly. Like, and things will start flowing the other way, which would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. Yeah, and I suppose that plays into the fact that there was, I think China had close to 15 years of an extremely protectionist attitude towards the games industry specifically, when it came to, like, consoles being banned, for example, so therefore no game development being taken.
And they're still censored now, so if you want to make a game and put it out in China, you will have to go through a censorship pass. And
yes, yeah, and it has to be made, like, I suppose that does affect then what gets exported naturally as well. But yeah, so the question was specifically, like, are there any particular games that we have sort of completely missed? To be honest, like, Fortnite's the one for me at the moment. Like, I play a decent amount of PUBG, and for some reason I've never got around to playing Fortnite.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I bear it no ill will. And the fact that, my Switch is just sitting there and I could just download it and play it. But I just, And
your PS4, like, it's everywhere. Like, there's no,
not, but never both.
You're holding a phone which it works on too,
That's
like,
true, yeah.
There's no escape from it. And yet, here we are.
It is, it's come up recently in conversations with sort of non-gaming friends, and it's interesting. Really interesting to me that this is the thing that is pushing Minecraft out of that spot. Like, I remember this from 10, 15 years ago. No one could imagine the game that would unseat World of Warcraft in the most, the thing everybody plays and talks about, and then Minecraft exists. And you can never conceive of what the next thing is before it exists. And having had years of Minecraft's, like, absolute hegemony over the minds of under 15s, for it to be replaced with a bolt-on battle royale mode attached to a last ditch zombie survival game made by the people who made Gears of War is like, you know.
But that's like the quiet, like we sort of mentioned earlier on, but like, in the break there, but it's, there's a nice mirror of the fact that there's this kind of quiet kind of Minecraft successor that is enormous and never really gets talked about. Like, which is Roblox.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which is all about like bolting like one thing to another thing and creating some multiplayer game that kind of.
If you turned around now and told me that you made a Roblox up, it's a fictional game, you just invented it, I would think like, there must have been like 2 or 3 people in on that, because I've heard about it from, I think 2 other people other than you. Other than that, it's just totally off my radar, but apparently it's the biggest thing ever.
It's like island of kind of, but I sort of wrote a couple of kind of, a book. I'm about to start another book for Roblox players, like as guides to games, and in doing that, I've been playing the games and I find them extraordinary. Like, here's a tip. Like, if you're a developer and you want an idea for a game to make, you want to make it big, and I don't understand why developers aren't doing this, you just look on the Roblox top charts, right? It's easy to do. You look at that chart, you play a few of those games. Like, those multiplayer games are what you should be making now. Like I don't understand, for instance, why there isn't a premium version of like the tycoon genre. Like, this is the tycoon genre, is where you run around and you build a thing, which then makes like squares, because Roblox is Roblox and it doesn't really generate anything other than squares. Like, little squares start going down a conveyor belt, and then that generates you money. And then after a time, you can then build, it's basically a clicker game, but physicalized. You're building these elements of your clicker game, like in an environment. But then, hell, let's situate it on the moon and the other players can kill you. So like, you have a PvP player whilst you manage your tycoon game. And
this is the future that liberals want.
Yeah. And then you build a spaceship at some point, and you can go up to a planet above you, which is like, and it's a bit like a 1950s sci-fi film, where the planet is like this sort of thing on a piece of string. Like, the planet is right next to where you are, basically, but you need a spaceship to go up there, and the flight model is janky. If this stuff was made to feel nice and it worked properly and it was balanced and stuff, like, why the hell hasn't anybody made it?
Satisfactory game. That's It's like Infinity Factory, but more gamey. Yeah. And in a open world type thing where you go out and gather resources.
Very Robloxian thing, but much more.
I don't know if it's
ambitious.
Multiplayer though. I don't know if you can have other people fucking with your shit.
I think there were people working together on it, but I don't think it was PvP.
Yeah.
But that could be wrong about that, because I only saw the trailer once. But yeah, Roblox is extraordinary. Really.
And people make careers from Roblox, right?
It's freemiumed up to the eyeballs, like, which is the terrifying thing, because it's little kids playing it, and to play on Roblox is to be constantly assailed with, do you want, this mode, this clothing, this everything, isn't available to you. It costs such and such Robux. And I don't think that Roblox is shady particularly, and there are ways that a kid can have a supply of Robux with a subscription which a parent can pay for, and it's not too sort of seedy that way. But it is teaching them, or kind of normalizing a world in which everything is gated with a micropayment. It's like a sort of sci-fi novel, come real, really.
Yeah, I suppose I think part of this is generational, but also it's bad.
Have you considered? It's bad.
Good, yeah.
Those are the two things. It's both cool and bad.
Well, that was the question, or one of the questions.
Our final question comes from Henry, who writes, Dear C&C, if there was one thing you could say, explain, shout, or confess to a specific game character, who and what would it be? My boring background story, I'm currently finishing Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and I find it quite frustrating that the game doesn't acknowledge my non-lethal approach. While fighting some officers in a police station, one of them screamed, "Cop killer!" in my direction, and I wanted to reply, "Excuse me, sir, but I've not killed any of your comrades, I'm just knocking them out." But I couldn't, and I felt bad. keep podding, Henry.
They're just sleeping.
They're all very sleepy. They've gone to the nice farm.
I'd like characters to tell me that it's okay to use my big stock of grenades that I haven't used.
You can blow us up, it's fine.
It's okay. The economy of the game is such that you haven't always have enough.
Yeah.
Oh wait, these are not the people you're using them on.
Maybe. I don't care.
I'm very weak to grenades. It's very efficient.
We will drop you more grenades on death.
I promise you there's no other enemy that's better to use a grenade on than me. I'm prime candidate.
I've got 5 grenades on me. If you use less than 5 grenades to kill me, you're golden.
Net win.
You can only hold 5 grenades. If you don't use all your grenades, you haven't maximally profited from this.
There's an infinite grenade box right around the corner. I put it there myself.
Why do we all sound like we're shouting through a toilet cubicle door?
There was a great...
I'll be out in a minute.
A great story from one of the writers of the Punisher game who said that he was writing incidental dialogue and you're pushing a man's face into a saw blade and he's begging for his life, and the censors came back and said, no, you can't do that. You can have the scene of gross torture, but not if the person expresses a desire for it not to happen. So,
fucking love it, mate. Whee!
You had to change all the dialogue to basically, like, go on, do it. Oh, don't care, or whatever. Yeah. Like, they have to. It's fine to put their face through the saw blade. They just can't appear to not want it.
But what is the message that is
Isn't
giving
that
to the
implied?
player? Like, they're saying people love this stuff. You should do that, as opposed to this is a person
doesn't seem
going
better.
through horror. Maybe don't do this.
As long as you're not forced to reflect on your actions.
I'm trying to think.
My thing was obviously the Spelunky shopkeepers who if for any reason any of their stock is taken out of their shop, or they take any damage, or any part of their shop or the surrounding rock is damaged, they go into a homicidal spree in which they jump up and down and shoot you. And in fairness, they don't only shoot you, they shoot everyone, including if they are selling people, they will shoot their own people. They will shoot each other. They will kill other shopkeepers. They will kill themselves when they're bouncing around. They are indiscriminate. But it is personal because thereafter there will be a poster of your face in all other shops saying that you're a thief, even if it wasn't you who blew up the thing or who took the thing.
Basically, you want a right to a trial. Like, you want habeas corpus.
I want to present my
basically.
evidence and say, look, clearly it was that tribesman who picked up the boomerang. He picked up the boomerang because he didn't have a boomerang. And when he left the shop, you took that as someone stealing, which it was, yes. But it wasn't me. It was that tribesman. You saw him do it.
But you're the only person with agency in the world of Spelunky, therefore you're the only person capable of crime.
They also, I think they've unionized because in the black market, if you piss off one shopkeeper, all shopkeepers are angered instantly. They're all one faction. So they have like a telepathic link for one thing, and also they're all equally angry about the theft and will kill everyone, including each other, which I think is how unions work.
I was going to say it's more mafioso. Kind of,
Yeah.
It's like a protectionist kind of thing.
Cartel.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there's so many examples of this for me. Like, any BioWare game where you know that one of the potential dialogue options pisses off the character and one of them potentially leads to, like, the romance track or whatever, and you're allowed to do both. Sorry, my voice is going. But you're not allowed, but there's no real, effect to the flow of the conversation, apart from the fact that it sounds a bit weird to kind of bounce from pissing someone off to like following the "but I like you really" thing. The inability to say "I only said the other thing because it was there."
I just wanted all the content.
I was just clicking all the options. I forgot. I didn't realize this was a bit where some of them were exclusive. I was just saying all the things I was allowed to say. That doesn't happen. I tell you what, recently, playing Jurassic World Evolution, a game I referred to, this isn't a game character so much as it is the man, Jeff Goldblum, but I don't know why he's in it. And I'm really sad that you don't have any control in that, but like over who you talk to or who talks to you, but I don't know why he's there. And he's there a lot. Well, he's there because he was gettable.
Somehow.
Yeah. In a production sense, like, we can get Jeff Goldblum, so of course we should have Jeff Goldblum. But it makes no sense that he's there, because
he provides like tutorial bits.
He just talks over the game. He talks over the game, and he, if you, he's sort of there to, there's a sort of story that he's just commenting on. Weirdly, it's like you're in the WhatsApp group for like everybody who's ever worked for InGen. And they're just talking about stuff, but it's none of it's very high stakes. But then if you build like a T-Rex, it'll be like, no, it's a T-Rex. It's Agent of Chaos. Bye. And then...
What do you want to say to Jeff Goldblum?
Why are you here? What is your job and what is my job? In this role play that we are doing, you, Jeff Goldblum, as Dr. Ian Malcolm, and me, the player? Like, I am ostensibly like the new director of Jurassic World, but that doesn't mesh with the new film, because, you know, a lot of people got murdered by dinosaurs, which isn't a concern in the game, where it just applies a small monetary inconvenience. So who am I, basically, is the first question I would ask Jeff Goldblum. And I trust that he would have an answer to that.
He would.
Like,
He'd
who
put you
am
on
I?
his knee and...
Who am I in this scenario? And who are you? Because his character, Ian Malcolm, doesn't work for Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Never has, as far as I can tell. He's a consultant. So why is he there?
It's his omnipresence and awareness.
Yeah.
Of...
Is he God? Like, he comments, like, or is he a voice in my head? Like, none of the other characters respond to him. So is this like a Fight Club sort of scenario? Like, I've invented...
I think that's it.
Dr. Ian Malcolm, like, I don't get it. And I want the option to say, like, stop calling me. Or like, but don't because I would miss you. Jeff Goldblum is Dr. Ian Malcolm. But it's such a weird instance of like, there's no logic there other than the pure production logic of we're making this licensed thing. This man should be here.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I played the game before I saw the new film. When I saw the new film, I was surprised to see how Jeff Goldblum fit into it, because it has absolutely nothing to do with the game whatsoever.
So he is in it. Is he on holiday this time?
He's in the movie, yeah.
He's pulled in to do maths one last time.
No, not at all. He's barely in it. Like, it's, he's, minor spoilers for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. He's simply being, like, he's just giving a testimony to a court about why the dinosaur apocalypse is probably a bad thing. And he gives his testimony to a court at the start and the end of the film. The film is bookended by presumably one extremely long court session where Jeff Goldblum, just says like, well, you know, I said this would happen. Well, essentially the dinosaurs are on trial, but I don't want to get into the weeds on this too much. But essentially they're consulting Jeff Goldblum on whether or not there should be dinosaurs. And he's like, I don't know, but no, but also yeah. And then at the end of the film, he goes, yeah, but also no. Jurassic World. And then the film ends. He himself is never under any peril. And a lot of things are going on. There are a lot of people in the film who would be more appropriate to call in front of dinosaur court.
Well, he's a kind of like a witness for the kind of character witness for dinosaurs.
He is a character witness for dinosaurs. And in the game Jurassic World Evolution, he's a character witness for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you built the Indominus Rex, why have you done that? And I'm like, oh, because it generates this amount of money.
Just,
it was there.
The game.
It was there.
It was another thing.
It's literally like, I could, and I didn't even ask whether I should, I just did. Yeah, basically, I've got so many questions about that game. Would anyone else like to explain something to a game character? Now's a safe environment to do that.
No, I mean, if Jeff Goldblum showed up in anything else, I'd also want to know why are you also here?
But that, in a way, would almost be the only way to justify his presence in Jurassic World Evolution, apart from the pure mercantile kind of like the characters in it, would be to say that, well, he's in every game. Because, like, ever since that like bonus mode on 30 Flights of Loving, where every character can be replaced with Jeff Goldblum, simply because of the Idle Thumbs thing. This is the dangerous crossover territory. You know, that would be, if that was present in every game, if every game had Jeff Goldblum mode, then they could have gone, well, all we've done is incorporated it into the main body experience. Made it non-optional. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's how they don't get dragged in front of a dinosaur court. We are now out of questions. And that brings us to the outro of the podcast, which I will now perform. Good. Thank you for sending us a question. If you'd like to send us a question, you'll stop giggling and going, Okay. If you'd like to send us a question for future episodes of the podcast, it got really warm, didn't it? That's what happened. Not warm and sticky. If you'd like to send us a question for future episodes of the podcast, you can do so by emailing us at questions@creatingcrowbar.com. You can also tweet us at Crate and Crowbar. As ever, the Crate and Crowbar is supported by our Patreon backers. Thank you very much to all of our Patreon backers. You can find out more about becoming a Patreon backer at patreon.com/Crate and Crowbar. Just going to say Patreon backer one more time. If you'd like to find us on YouTube, that's youtube.com/Crate and Crowbar, where you'll find podcasts and some videos. Sometimes some more videos. Eventually, we're trying. If you would like to follow us as individuals, you can find me on Twitter at CThurston. That's CTHURSTEN. Who wants to go next and why? Is it Tom Francis?
I'm not going to answer that. Just going to launch straight into the spelling of my Twitter handle, which is Pentadact, PENTADACT.
Congratulations.
I am rotational.
Don't need to spell that.
No.
Self-evident.
Rotational, like the rotating
Geometry.
owl.
We should stop.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.